welcome back, everyone. I hope you're not too tired after lunch while digesting, but that is what the body does, and I think we will try to wake you up a little with our conversation. I'm very pleased to have with me two members of the artist collective, The Agency, Magdalena and RAHEL, and from Munich, Paula-Irene Villa. Thank you so much for being here. We will talk about a lot of topics that revolve around the performance Medusa Bionic Rise that you can see tonight or tomorrow. And we will try to keep it quite informal and just browse a little through all the interesting topics and themes. And since we're keeping it formal, I will start by asking you to introduce yourself a little so that you can just mention what's important of your work. And I would like to start, of course, with The Agency. Magdalena. Who are you?
Hello. Hello, I'm Magdalena, and I am one of 4 members of The Agency. Together with Rahel and Jana and Bell, we formed this group in 2015 by doing a project together, actually. ASMR Yourself, this was our first project that we did in Berlin. And since then, we continuously work together, and we kind of share the artistic directorship. And we have positions inside of this group. So I'm, for example, sharing with Belle, doing costume and stage, and all this kind of related stuff like online works, websites, design, blah. Rahel is the dramaturg, and Jana is doing director's job in The Agency. And we did this performance, Medusa Bionic Rise, in 2017 at Treibstoff Basel Festival. And since then, we're touring it quite a lot. And yes, Rahel will tell a bit more about the production. But maybe...
Yeah? Okay. Yeah, I tried to tell you a little bit about the production. I mean, we will show it tonight and tomorrow, so I don't want to spoil everything. But yeah, we created Medusa Bionic Rise, and actually we were inspired from a fitness coaching club in Düsseldorf called Phoenix Human Prime. And we were rehearsing for another performance, and then we stepped by at this like really weird place, like black mattresses, like really well-trained and happy people inside, all wearing black, sitting together on their computers, but also training, and we were like, what are they doing? And then this huge logo like Phoenix Human Prime. And we were like, okay, that's a statement. And we entered, and we wanted to know, what are you doing? And so they explained us, it's like really, I mean, that's not what they were saying. They were just saying, yeah, you can become a member of Phoenix Human Prime, and you can get coachings, you can improve your life, you can, they do like a nutrition consulting in a way, you can do your sports there, and you can get like really amazing motivational speech from the leader. And so they sent us over and like to the so-called base, like 200 meter further down the street there was the base, and again like these really amazing people, and we tried to enter, and we tried to talk to them, to ask them, what do we have to do, how can we do like a Probetraining, like how do you say it in English?
Tryout
training. And they were like, no, you have to become a member. And so we checked out the website, and there you could read some stuff, but you always had the feeling, okay, you really have to become a member to really get all the information. And what we found so interesting was that it was really, they offered everything. They offered you everything to improve your life. So it was not only about fitness, or it was not only about maybe improving like your mental ability. It was really, you can get your coaching here, you can do your sport here, you can learn about nutrition, you can be a member of something bigger. And so out of this, we really had this idea, okay, we want to make a fitness cult. A fitness cult that is really into radical enhancement. And they really believe in the merge of body and technology. That is what Medusa Bionic Rise does. The members really believe in that merge. They believe that they can change and challenge what a body is, what a body can be. And they believe in open source solutions. So they believe that they can enhance radical, that they can hack their mind, their bodies, their emotion, that they are really, they are skilled, that all the members are skilled in really different ways, and that they can exchange their knowledge. That means they also want to kind of provoke or challenge the how am I saying this in English? Das Monopolwissen in a way, like of like the huge companies and firms. And so that was the idea of Medusa Bionic Rise. It is like an on-offline movement. And what they do here, what they do tonight and tomorrow is they have a mission call. That means they meet, some of the members meet to exchange their knowledge, to do their rituals and to find new members. So maybe that is the frame, and maybe we can dive into that later a little bit more.
Okay, so a little cut now. I'm Paula-Irene Villa. I'm a professor for sociology and gender studies at the University of Munich. I teach and I research now for quite a while on embodiment, on issues of what we call biopolitics, the kind of merging and intersection of soma, of bodies, of the living with the political, the normative, the social. I've done a lot of research on cosmetic surgery, for example, on also nutrition and food, on enhancement. And we got to know each other while you were doing the research and the kind of background studies for this club, this cult you set up. And yeah, it's great to talk to each other.
Thank you so much. When we just sat down to lunch and talked a little about what's there to talk about, I would really ask you to follow this up, not how this meeting went, that's the normal dramaturgy process, but we were talking about different forms and modes of knowledge development, but also of presentations. So maybe, first of all, the agency, Magdalena and RAHEL, maybe you could elaborate a bit on the way that you are presenting the knowledge that is shared in this open source structure in your piece, and how this relates to your prior work.
Maybe I say something basic about immersion, because we do immersive performances, which means that there is no division of stage and audience, and you really enter a world or a fiction as an audience member, and you become part of that, and you influence what is happening there, and you influence your own story in there. So you kind of, with the decisions you make and who you talk to and who you meet, you actually create your own narration, or like you also get very different knowledges inside that piece, depending on what character you meet, what things you engage with. And yeah, like, so this is, on one hand, you could say we do immersive performance, like this is the mode of performance. And what we talked about also at lunch is this idea of immersion, maybe as a way of working and researching. And that was the case, for example, in MBR, that we all started to do sports workout a lot more than we usually do. So, for example, we went boxing, and we had a Thai box trainer actually who worked with us already in the pre-rehearsals in Munich, where we also met you. And yes, so like that you really like embody these practices and not just like theoretically research it somehow, which we also do a lot. But yeah, like so this was, especially in MBR, it's very strongly a thing of body practice and fitness practices.
Yeah, maybe one sentence like how we developed this world in a way, and that is where we met, that we try to imagine what field of optimization do we know. So we were thinking, where do we optimize ourselves? And of course, so it is the body, it is like basic stuff like fitness, but it's also, of course, plastic surgery, where you try to become better, more beautiful, maybe more the norm. And that was our question. Is it possible to optimize your body in a non-normative way? Or is optimization always a submission in a way under a norm, or like embodying a norm? And that was also what we then discussed when we met. So we tried to think of other fields like neuroenhancement, stuff like mood hacking, how can we like influence our like mood with maybe really easy things, but also with like supplements you can get in every pharmacy in a way without recipe. We tried to think of, and then of course of artificial intelligence. So that was a really important topic for us. How can we imagine that artificial intelligence will be connected with us, with our bodies, with our minds? What will that change, and in what way would maybe bodies move, being maybe connected to an intelligence like this? And so we try to map these different fields of optimization and try to get to know these practices connected to that. And this is also where we met and start to talk, and maybe we want to share a little bit about it.
Did you want to show something before? I thought, I was just thinking, but then, yeah, let's talk. But just maybe so you get an impression, and you really have to go and see it, and not mainly see it, but experience it. I think that's the point. So, yeah.
So this is from 2017, the picture, Stacey and Jackson, a performer we work with, and Belle Santos on the right, and Jeremy Nett. And there you see, actually, we also worked site-specific when we did the piece in Basel. It was placed in an empty shopping mall, or like one floor of an empty shopping mall, which was still the concrete building. It was never really used for anything, but they kind of built a show office, so you could go there and see, this could be your office. And so this is why there's this carpet and this like blue walls and stuff, and we reused this and kind of built our self-made fitness studio in there. And so this is Florian Wolf. He's a bodybuilder, and actually this is a position of an extra. We always cast this new when we tour the piece, and he was there in Basel when we developed it. In the back you can see the MBR bar. So this is a lot of gadgets and tools from in the lab of MBR, which is owned by a character called AA, which is played by Nastya Antonenko. And what happens in the piece is that you actually, like you as an audience member can be part of the research that is done, and you can also, like, there's data generated in small test routines that happen there, and then you are asked if you want to actually share that data in the MBR cloud, and like you really make this decision of if you want to expose this data, or you want it to be deleted, or like not just like for yourself. And this is the character Dean, Lara Cherible. also a performer we work with in almost every piece we did. And yeah, like Dean is, for example, the character that is really connected to this idea of neuroenhancement, of taking supplements, and yeah. Do you want to say something more to that?
Yeah, so to take up your suggestion, I was just thinking also with the pictures and the experience about what you were saying, you know, is there a kind of malleability of the body and or optimization or whatever you want to call it that is maybe, I don't know if non-normative, but maybe in different way normative or in unusual ways. And I think that's one of the core kind of mysteries or really also political questions of our time is there a kind of cyborg, a kind of usage of body, of material, of organisms that does not happen in the horizon of domination and of to know what will be the outcome or to have a kind of strategic approach to say, I want this to be faster, better, sexier, profitable, whatever, but kind of ways to tinker, to play, to use your own body maybe, or that of others or with others, but that is more in the horizon of not knowing what will happen, to really make yourself vulnerable. And I was thinking that one example that I think is really historically different is, for example, use of drugs. If you look at, you know, the idea, at least, of this very glamorized and romanticized, but still this idea maybe in the 60s, 70s, or maybe even earlier, of drugs as kind of expansion of consciousness, of tripping, you know, and the concept of tripping is to really take a trip that you don't know where it's going to take you exactly, and, you know, you make yourself vulnerable to surprises and have your body somehow do something to you. Whereas nowadays, and I think in your piece, that's really a really super interesting part and aspect of it, is to kind of take stuff and ingest things and use things in order to get a result or to somehow have an idea of that you know what's going to happen. And in nowadays, I don't know if you've read about it, and I also think it's more an idea than it actually really happens, but you know, the concept of microdosing, for example, LSD and others, which is exactly sort of the opposite of what this idea of taking psychotropic or psychedelic trips once was, but now it's really to be fitter, learn better, be, you know, better at work and more awake and stuff, but not to see what might happen. So I think that the notion of do we kind of shape our bodily material ourselves with the horizon, with the idea of getting somewhere specific, or do we live the idea and let it happen that our bodies and our, you know, the living happens to us? And I think that that's an experience that people in your performance have to have. As an audience or as participants, we don't know. So it's, I think, a very kind of this contrast of a setup where things are supposed to happen, but you have to give in yourself to know what will happen. That's a very interesting experience in that sense. That was one thing I was thinking about right now.
Yeah. No, I think it's a. I would relate to that directly. If I understand it correctly, this cult has, of course, some metaphysical or religious or dimension that is overscribing or that's inscribing inside the self empowerment of the body itself. So is there room for what you described? Is there room for the turnaround where your body does something to you instead of you doing something to your body?
I mean, I'm not sure if I can answer that question directly, but I think really important for that cult is that they're actually ready to make a decision. It's maybe super easy and banal, and there's like a contract that you can do with yourself. Also, if you go to the MBR website, this cult has like a website, you can download like this contract, and in this contract there's this really basic question, are you ready to question the nature of your body's reality? And I think this decision to say, maybe I want to do this, or I consider that I'm doing this, and what does it mean, and what does it change? Meaning, again, to question every possible way, maybe of naturalization, by knowing that, of course, you produce already a new norm, or you are building and working already on new norms, but to maybe ask yourself that question and to go with that decision, I would say makes a difference. But I would never say that with this performance we show that there is an utopian way of turning all these tools around, reusing them, because I think it's like, or that was also for us really interesting reading like your books. I think you were saying or you were writing that it's like a continuum. English? Continuum. Between domination or empowerment and submission, and that often we probably do practices that have the potential to be both, and to work on maybe both sides of that line. So I think it's also maybe a personal question, like what does it mean to us doing this work? And I would say for me it's always probably you do something, and with this action you turn, maybe you can be a subversive, but on the other hand you're already stabilizing something else. And I think it's more about challenging that again and again and doing this action, rather in being sure that now you're subverting something, or yeah, that's my opinion.
Okay. Also, you were also talking about the immersive experience that where audience members really become participants, and you already mentioned how you try to do this immersive idea, and I would. And you said that the participants maybe also get kind of this feeling of that that your body does something to you being in this situation. Can you maybe describe a little of the techniques how you or the actual meetings that occur in this immersive situation, one-on-one or with the whole group, how you find a good balance between maybe overwhelming and accepting like the private space with which the audience members come into your performance.
So with doing MBR, when we developed this performance, we actually found a new mode that was different from the two performances we did before, and we kind of combine a mode of, in that case of MBR training, which is like a show, so you can enter the room and you're there and you're not directly approached or addressed, but you can like really be there and watch people doing things, or you can also join. And then having this modes where you actually can talk to characters because they're more available. They're not like they're hanging out, or they actually approach you and take you into other rooms. And what happens in these rooms, for example, or like in one-on-ones, is from small training sequences where you just do like a small routine together, like you would do it with a personal trainer or something, or you get told a story. Or what also is there is we have this conference room where you can watch videos that are like video diaries from members from earlier times, when they kind of just talk about what they are doing right now, or how does it feel, or like, so we kind of created this universe, or we expanded that universe in these videos to also show more characters than just the ones that are in the room, and also like have more topics there somehow. So there's really also very different ways of how you can engage as an audience. Like if you feel like, okay, this is too much, I don't want to talk to anyone, there is ways to not do that. Like you can be there, you can watch a video, you can just watch people training, and yeah, so I think that's. But then also maybe at one point your friend says, wow, and I was there and that happened to me, and I was in this bathroom or in this kitchen and that happened, and then you're like, actually maybe I should try also do that. So I think it's really game.
And what I found was really, I felt that you were very cautious of being careful with who you know, there was a kind of, I don't know if tenderness is too much, but, you know, kind of respect for the people, and, you know, how the audience or the participants may react. And I thought it was rather a nice, inviting way, so it's not overwhelming in that sense. But it is quite, I felt, disorientating. But I may be a very conventional, non-savvy performance participant, maybe, but I felt, oh, what am I supposed to do? Oh, what is this? But not in a bad, necessary way, but shaky, but interesting, sort of, yeah. What we were talking about before, and that was a question I wanted to, you know, give to us, and maybe to you as well, again, is when you just said, you know, this knowledge production, and to talk about topics which go beyond specific genres. The optimization, enhancement, perfectibility of the body is obviously a topic that's kind of relevant to all of us, wherever we are, if as parents, as, you know, citizens, as somebody that might get sick in a moment, as people who do sports or do not, or weight or do arts or do in academia. So, and there are different genres and different ways of posing these questions. And I was, congratulations, I liked very much this little trailer that a German art TV channel did, where you presented also your work. And at one moment you said, yeah, we want to expose these contradictions, these ambivalences, this, you know, difficult practices, but we don't want to lecture. We don't have a clear message, and you repeated that again. And I would say the same in a sense for what I do academically, but we do it in very different genres. And I found that really interesting. We were talking about that before. There is, maybe in contemporary, in our societies right now, there's a kind of interesting mixture of knowledges and genres, which is super interesting, and I think opens up a lot, but may also be sometimes difficult. So what is the exact kind of position of, let's say, theoretical, conceptual, more academic knowledge in your piece? But doing academia, doing science is never unbodily. That's the weird idea people have, is that we don't have bodies apparently, but of course we do. And, you know, I get really, you know, tired from sitting or whatever. So that's also kind of practice, and to give a lecture is a performance as well, in a sense. And how do these different genres then mix? And what I stated before was that I also see sometimes, not with your piece, but in general, sometimes the kind of demand that we all should do everything. So each performance has to have a very theoretical academic agenda, but also all people in academia should be really great performers, and politics should be great art, and art should have a political message. So I find that a very troubling situation, I have to say. Yeah, it sounds great, it appeals, we all think we're super funky, but I think we all lose a lot if we don't somehow say, no, you know, I do academia, you do performance, let's talk, but let's not think we do the same. But that's, you know.
I mean, I think I can answer that really on a personal level, since I'm coming from theory and not from arts. Like, I studied philosophy and cultural science. I was always so afraid to talk about theory when I was studying theory, because I felt I'm missing a lot all the time, a lot. And what I find really interesting then, now after 4 years working with the agency, to realize after 3 years, maybe it started, that there is a certain knowledge being produced, and I feel really secure, not sure, but secure within that. And we are working a lot with theory, but it's not about I don't have to be like in theory, of course, if you do it, you know where you are in a field, and you know that you want to be, at least that's how I experience it. You want to be respectful. You want to know what else is there. You want to know where you dive into and how you're doing this. And in arts, I have the feeling it's the same. Like, we want to do, what other performances are there, what are the discourses, and where do we place ourselves. But now my position changed towards theory, and I'm really happy about it, because sometimes I really feel like a parasite a little bit, that we have a very specific question, and then we can look up, and like we can use everything, and we can just take it and do with it whatever. And I like that a lot, but I think with a huge respect, and not only respect, love towards that field. And I also think, and I find this really interesting, that you feel that you start to embody texts or theory in performance. And this, because we read a lot, and I would never say this is theory and then we do field research. The reading is a practice we are doing, and there is a transformation and transition towards the performance. And I would actually sometimes very much like to make an analysis of the performance to see how did this text actually end up in that performance, because there is a very specific embodiment. And I have the feeling all these texts, they do something to your body. Like, they really change you. It's like an intervention. And so, yeah, now, I talked a lot. But, yeah.
That's the point. Yeah. You see, you get all, That's what ideas do to us.
Right. I think it's maybe a good time to open up to the whole auditorium. We touched a lot of topics, and you ended with a question that you said it's maybe not just for the agency here on stage, but for everyone. So, who wants to join our conversation? I'll wait a little longer, because it's usually quite overwhelming when this moment comes, so one has to figure out if there is a question. There we are.
We've just talked during lunchtime about the changing, or about the switching of the understanding of performativity of the body. I was thinking, of the early 90s with gender trouble, and then with all, the discussions about the doing gender. Now today, it's very different. It's not. It's of course, there are the gender issues still around, but it's not in a very, very different sense. So I think I would say, the performativity has hugely, very strongly, turns into a kind of biological performativity. Now, I would like very much, because, it was just the practice, the performance and the theory relationship, in which ways would you see, these changes since the mid-90s, I would say, when we have started discussing, this doing gender, doing, there was a big exhibition in the early 90s in Austria called Different Bodies. It was organized and curated by Sigrid Schade, an art historian at that time at the University in Bremen. And I did a symposium called The Body of Gender. Now, I was thinking today and reminded, of these early examples, in terms of gender trouble. And today, with the bodies in trouble, there are so many different aspects, and I would very much be interested, to hear from your side, in which ways you see these differences.
That goes to me? Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I think there are very big differences, and they are we're not only in different situations, but now in one that, and I think you would suggest, or you would be, you'd agree, you'd suggest the same, that what the situation now is kind of partly an effect of what happened in the 90s. So I would fully agree, and what I also empirically found, for example, researching cosmetic surgery or other things, is that there is still a variant, or again, a very strong notion of, natural bodies, but that the concept of what the natural is has very much shifted into something that is malleable, shapeable, usable, a resource, and not the a priori, the fixed, the determined outside of social practice. But in contrast, it's something that we can use as a resource. Like, we use water, we use soil, we use our bodies. And that's there is a strong ambivalence in there, because it is actually, I think, still very much so a kind of emancipatory project. And it is very much infused from emancipatory movements, and still is part of. But again, of course, it is totally accord with all what we call neoliberal markets, the body as commodity, hormones as goods, you can buy and sell, etc. So yeah, the whole ambivalence is in there. The only ones who really resist this notion are we as a milieu. That's especially the German or German-speaking, high qualified, formally educated Bildungsbürgertum, those in charge of public discourse and the important dailies. Those are the ones that most strongly resist this notion, who still think there's a kind of, natural ontology of a natural something, a very romantic idea. And again, and a different thing that troubles me as well in this context is that we do also see a very strong, some call it backlash, I'm not so sure, in populist, mainly xenophobe, racist, right-wing, but also in some, it's on the left as well, partly populist mobilizations, the neo-authoritarian claims of a natural sexuality, natural sex, the whole anti-gender issues, the natural family. So there's also strong new articulation, and I think that reacts somehow to this situation we've got now, where some can afford more, others less, to shape their own body, to create a body that goes along with certain norms, that's fit, that's productive, that's young, that's lean, that's white, that's European, heterosexual. So the more you can afford to bring yourself to embody that, the better off you'll be. And those who maybe can't or won't, or feel they don't need to or shouldn't need to, might, kind of react with a strong stance that says, leave me alone. I want to have the body I want to, and I want to grab the pussy, because that's what I do by nature. So I think we have, again, in these political context, again, very troubling new, fights and debates and political struggles over, the naturalness of the body.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I will take advantage of Marie-Louise's question and push this a bit further. I think we have probably had a lot of even microbodies, biological, as you enumerated then, even in the late 90s and the 2000s, whereas still, the genetic or the cellular level stands in as a kind of identity proxy for an individual body. And this individual body is being questioned, and I think first of all, most feminist theoreticians have been very strong at decentralizing even the very concept of optimization from the individual bodies to collective relationships, Paradotti and so on. So I was wondering whether today it's still appropriate to think of optimization in relation to a mesoscopic individual body that is human, and it is acting in a kind of 2 by 2 meters radius, and not to see epistemological shifts that occur specifically when not only human cells and genetic sequences are at stake of what we are going to discuss tomorrow under the label of microperformativity, but it's more other than human agencies, such as, let's say, bacteria. We have a very large bacterial turn, and you can see this also in the shift of the changing from the Human Genome Project to the Human Microbe Genome Project. And in order to work on this topic, we had a research group in Copenhagen about big bacteria, so FACT, big data, because it's not about a quantification, it's about a qualification of data, and bacteria as non-human agents outnumber by large human cells in your own body. So what happens if your identification process starts not from human cells, but even from bacterial cells, and how they interact? So what I want to say is just, in how far can we still work with the notion of optimization when it's not about relation optimization, but individual ontological optimization? So this is also a challenge to the group. Thank you.
So I'm not sure. I'm sure I did not get everything what you were saying, but I'm sure that you asked why to talk about optimization or in that way. I can just say that for us, we had the impression this is still the big call. We are in our everyday life that we all the time we have the feeling we have to become better. It's just a really basic experience. I feel that probably most of us share, and it's not only the body, of course, it's also our social relationships, the networks we are building, that we really think about friendships as networks that bring us to, like, that improve our lives or our career and so on. And I can say that I feel that it is a topic in my life, and talking with in my cluster and scene, especially also free scene theater, I have the feeling it just started in a way to work with like feedback methods within the scene, to think how can we shorten our rehearsal periods in order to do not have to pay so much to the people. How can we be quicker? How can we produce quicker? How can we be so efficient in what we are doing, because a problem really is a problem and not a potential, maybe. I mean, and so I can just say that I have the feeling we are concerned with this every day in me as an individual, whatever that means, but also within a group or collective. And what I feel, what we maybe do not talk about in MBR is dysfunction, or the potential of dysfunction. I have the feeling these bodies work quite well. And so since they are working so well, maybe you can be really critical and say it's still all the time in a capitalized neoliberal logic. And I have the feeling now maybe I start to get interested more in these moments of what does it mean to not work anymore, to dysfunction, to really have a lot of problems. It's also a really old thought, but maybe this question is not so strong in MBR. So I'm pretty sure I didn't answer all the biochemical molecule, I don't know. I was just talking about why I think it's still important to reflect on self-optimization and how much it is a topic, and how can we reflect on that in all its ambivalences, maybe.
I'm also not sure I understood, but I'd be really glad to learn more about it. But I was thinking, I'm also maybe including my very lay and very trivial maybe knowledge or appreciation of, bacteria and other organic forms that are out there. I think common sense, or maybe the hegemonic kind of zeitgeist has it, that yes, we are totally kind of occupied or connected with all kind of micro, and micro is a kind of fetish word, you know, micro beings, etc. But then again, that is controllable. I mean, the book, you know, the Ratgeber, the self-help books, etc., are full of, you know, how to get your intestine, your Darm flora better, and how to get your mouth flora better, and how to, you know, how to shape all these microorganisms, how to bring them under control, how to make them work better for you, etc. So maybe that would be my surely very sociological answer to that. That in common sense, that is a trope, but again, in this horizon, in this mode of dominating it in order to make it work for you, in order to optimize yourself, eat better, poop better, sleep better, etc. And that you can, in this connection, and yes, there's extremely strong an emphasis on the individual. I would stick to that, and more than ever, you know, do your gender. The whole notion of doing gender has, I think, become a kind of travesty in many contexts, also in queer or left or whatever context, as if it were something that's merely and only kind of individually, an individual solo performance, which was, if I may say so, I'm over 50, never the idea of doing gender. But okay, that's the way thing goes. So I think this kind of fetish of the individual and of individual autonomy in bodily practices is super alive and kicking, unfortunately.
Back there.
Hey, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to your performance tonight and see and learn more and be a participant. And I would be really interested in your notion, what you just mentioned about the role of affects and emotions in your practice as well, and how that plays in how you prepare maybe your practice, and how it finds its way into performance, and how you talk about it, how reading becomes a practice of that. Because I was recently a participant in the Young Girl Reading Group workshop where we read together. So also this notion of becoming maybe a collective body, whatever that means, but maybe finding ways of dissenting this individualization in practices of collective, whatever that means. And also I would be very interested in this notion of participation and how that also shifted in arts, and maybe also since the 90s, and what that means now, and how that could be reformulated or needs to be reformulated, and so that it becomes more than just this hollow phrase of empowerment. You know, how do you see, what does that mean to you? Like, if you take that serious, the possibilities of becoming collective or participants, so effects and infrastructure and participation. So, I mean, big questions, but would be interested from your side, how you deal with that in your practice.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking what I should to what I'm answering now. So you asked about the participation of, like, the way the audience is participating and how that changed. Am I right? Like, what was that one question, or? Yeah, and that.
What does it mean to you? How do you perceive participation, and why do you need participation?
Okay.
What is the role?
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is really again a question why we go for immersion instead of like this stage audience separation. And I think that today we dive from one immersive setting to another, like really well constructed, well built worlds, and of course they it is like it's the wellness area, or it's the shopping mall, or it's the fitness center, the whatsoever. And I think there, of course, it is a lot about making us buy stuff, or making us wanting stuff, making us, like, these settings tend to produce desire. And I think we are really interested in what ways do different settings produce certain effects, emotions, desires. And can we kind of look at these constructions, use them, change the frame by constructing them in a theater, making them, I think we then try to, through over-affirmation, make them maybe stronger or more dense in a way, to create a certain experience. So I think this word experience is really important, that you as an audience member, you have a really clear function, meaning you don't have a psychological role. You are not and you are traumatized and now you need to engage. No, you have a function you know from your everyday life. You are a customer, you are a potential member. It's maybe like a really flat character in a way. And so it is about creating an experience which might lead to reflect on how are these worlds constructed. We are moving in our everyday lives, and what kind of desires do they produce. And so I think there is a big discussion and also criticism going on of, is this critique, is immersive theater reproduction of neoliberal structures, or is it a form of critique, and if so, what kind of critique is that? And I would say, and of course it has a huge potential to be manipulative, of course, because it's producing effects all the time, through light, through smells, sound, and we really try to create an environment that makes you to forget the outside world or whatever. And of course we try, or we hope that because it is so thick and strong, that it maybe points to a certain reflection, but I think this is something maybe that has to happen after, or whatever.
We're very distracted.
Was it a really,
by the living. No, we're very distracted by the living things that interview here. Yeah, they have their own way.
Yeah, maybe.
About the maybe what you addressed of maybe community building also. At the moment, we are working on a production series actually under the topic of new masculinity, and we already did like 2 projects on that, or we did a lot of research. Also, we went to Japan, for example, and also to the US, and looked at contemporary maybe movements or labels of masculinity or manliness. And now in September we will start rehearsals for the big production in the circle, and it should be a new men's movement. And yeah, right now we didn't figure out, of course, how this will be, and we still are very excited and lost, maybe.
Yeah, what are your affects? What are your feelings? Because
Yeah.
That was one of the questions. How do you feel about it?
Yeah. How do we feel about it? Like, I think for us, like we did right now, we did the second production we're just coming from. We had premiere in June. It was called Boy Space, and this is a project that, like Boy Space was a online forum, like a digital room, a server actually in Discord, which is a group chat app. And in the performance, you would be logged in with a magic card where you get like a male avatar and a login. So you end up in this chat room, but you also enter a physical space, and there is performers, and they also tell you stories about maybe how they are related to this medium, or what they experienced, or how they decided to actually create this, or how maybe like there is some time lapses in the piece, how maybe this did not work out for them, and they really struggled with that. And this question of how to build community and what mediums you could use is in the fiction and also outside of it, like also this question of how do we use this app? How do we create it so actually people who are audience maybe use this after the performance? How could this carry on actually? And for example, in Boy Space, we had this moment where you get matched with your empathy partner, which is another audience member, and you're just like randomly matched, and you never know who you are actually chatting with, but you have a anonymized chat with one person. For some people this worked out very well, for others not, because they had a partner who didn't want to chat or stuff. But from what I know, there's people that really went on talking to this person, and I think this was something that really kind of was a game changer for us somehow, like this and this question of empathy, how to produce empathy, what ways of creating situations where you are maybe referring to Ali Russell Hochschild, which is a sociologist from the US, from Berkeley, and she's talking about climbing an empathy wall somehow. So she's meeting people, talking to people that really are very far away from her cluster. And I think in our performances, the audience is not, it's not very diverse. It's all arts interested people, mostly from our cluster, and but how to create their moments of empathy with very far away other entities, maybe not even human or something. That's something we're really concerned with in the next production, I think, also.
Yeah, I was actually gonna just say that now, because you have to rest before your performance and you have to prepare. So I'd like to thank everyone for their attention, and you for these great insights and to making us even more anxious to see the performance tonight or tomorrow. And if you're interested, in half an hour there will be another talk also about another artistic practice with Johannes Paul Räther. So I would really be happy to see you all back after the break. Thank you.